Scott, what's up,
Oh,
man?
hey Joe, how are you? Good.
Nice to meet
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you too.
absolutely. So, where are you located?
I'm in Playa del Carmen, Mexico,
Oh, right on. How
Central
is it?
Time.
How is it down there?
It's beautifully summery all of the time, lots of water, great ocean. It feels like you're swimming in a pool, nice and warm water. Cenotes are like a kind of special lake in this like pockmarked limestone landscape. There's beautiful like jungly lakes that are like amazing for free diving and snorkeling. I love it, the natural world, and it's also a town that it's like between Cancun and Tulum, which are globally famous. And it's like right in the middle. So it's like a little like safe haven away from like pure tourism. It's also a very touristy place across from Cozumel, but it's filled with people from all over the world. Like bigger
Wow.
populations are Russian and Argentinian, but there's lots of Americans, Canadians here, and a handful of Europeans sprinkling. There's like Belgians and people from Netherlands and Germany and France. And it's interesting.
Wow. Sounds like a
Yeah.
paradise. So, how did you stumble upon that?
I knew a woman who lived here for a long time who was in the kind of outdoor freediving world. And so I came down after knowing her for like 8 years, and she kind of inspired me to check it out over that time. And I eventually made it down here. And I was like, I'm just going to go live there. I've heard only good things, and just took the break for the summer. So I've been here 4 months.
That's cool, man. Well,
Yeah.
we'll peel back the layers of everything in your life up to this point to a certain degree, and kind of what motivates you. And to begin with, I want to
Yeah.
know, how did you survive the last 3 years with COVID? How did you get through that time period, and how did it change
COVID.
you?
COVID's interesting. I had a startup job during COVID in California. I was working in LA. It kind of surprised me, and I said yes to this opportunity. And when the pandemic hit, um, I kept my job, but it was like went fully remote. But I lived like 2 blocks away, so like it was not a big deal either way.
Yeah,
And I had a movie that I had made, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today,
yeah.
a documentary. But it was still in the it was in the cutting phase. Like I'd gotten the rough cut for like a 2 hour cut out of like a 12-hour set of interviews, and with my editor. And I was like, okay, there's nothing to do at all, and this is like my passion and drive to get this story told. I'm going to spend every second I have undistracted from society working on this story. And I spent about a year with my editor back and forth every week with a different cut. I'd make a cut, she'd make a cut, I'd make a cut, she'd make a cut, I'd give notes, she'd give a cut, stuff like that. And that was my like just 100% focus, with
Yeah.
a few private birthday parties here and there with some friends. It
Okay. All
wasn't so
right.
bad living near the beach in LA for the pandemic. It was like the whole city of LA, 12 million people, turned into like a quiet park.
Yeah.
Like no one's driving, nothing's really happening, no entertainment. And the capital of entertainment in the USA is like nothing happening. So we just
Yeah.
went hiking a lot. I went to the beach a lot, which is not so bad.
Yeah. No, that's actually a good thing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's get to the essence and core of exactly what you do for a living. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. One of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I tell stories that people have gone through in a way that's really interesting and fun to learn about, using art that they have created. I show off their art, help them show off their art to the world.
So, what did you want to be in the third grade?
I love your questions. The third grade. Wow. Um, Going back in time. Give me a second.
Sure.
I had a dream then to travel Africa. That
Okay.
was my passion. I've only been to Morocco since I'm 42 now, so it's been a while since I
Yeah.
was in third grade. But yeah, I was fascinated by travel. I wanted to see the world and get to know communities.
So you clearly have a thirst for adventure and art and helping people. Take me back to where you were born and raised and how these seeds got into you to become who you are today.
I was born and raised in northern Wisconsin. It's a very wild place. It's more wild animals than humans by a long way. And walking barefoot all summers, harsh Arctic winters, um, and a big appreciation in the culture for nature and the outdoors, but also a lot of time alone, reading books, and not really. It's very rural, so there's not a lot going on culturally or socially. There's a lot of like nothing to do, so you hang out with your friends and do nothing together. and you make the most of what you have, like making lemonade out of lemons kind of thing. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of good in that. Um, I forgot the rest, second half of your question there.
Oh
I
yeah,
guess
the
my origin
seeds that became
seeds.
who you are, the motivations.
Mm. My parents are pretty creative and non-standard, kind of eccentric people, and they always encouraged us to not do the standard thing. Like, don't go to college and get a business degree. If you're going to go to college, get an art degree. Like,
Yeah.
that's way more interesting. I'd be way more proud of you if you like did self-expression. And there's a lot of programs in our town, and we had a really good like education system that really funded the arts. And there's a lot of focus like, yeah, like go into pottery, go into painting, get this instrument, and like encouragement to go and like work on those things. My mom was played jazz saxophone when she was a teenager, so she made me get a saxophone. And I didn't love it, but I did play, and it opened my eyes to what music and music language. So I played guitar, and I got obsessed with the grunge era, Nirvana, Soundgarden,
Yeah.
and my brother was really into that stuff, but like Pearl Jam and a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So I was exposed to like lots and lots of music and like early 80s hip hop or late 80s hip hop. Um, and so like music was, I mean, he played drums. So like there was this like little bit of teasing of like art's the thing you can do. Keep on trying that. And then I got excited when Weezer came out to like get a rock band and get my guitar and do covers, and eventually wrote my own songs and made an album. And I was in a band throughout high school. Like we played prom as like we like all wore like prom outfits, but we were the rock band, and everyone's like smoking marijuana and hanging out and making out and doing acid and dancing. It was like, we were having some fun in high
Sure.
school. And um, then we eventually formed a band out of that after high school. That was like a summer thing, toured a little bit, wrote an album. Then I did my album after that. And then kind of everyone kind of spread across the world and went to college, and, kind of everything kind of changed at that point. But that was sort of like the, oh, and through that, there was also a documentary program in our high school. So I like, and we had complete freedom. We could sign ourselves out of any class with like our documentary. We have to go make a documentary about Y2K, the world's
Yeah.
ending, and like need to go interview the people at the energy company. And we'd go do it, or make a snowboarding video or a skateboarding video during school hours. And they had a lot of fun with that. And I think, later on, I was living a more practical life and pretty disillusioned with society when the recession hit in 2008. And I was like back in school doing something more practical with engineering. I went to school as a second. I went to school for photography or after high school, and then I went to school again for engineering during the recession. And at some point, I was like, you know what? I loved working with cameras. I loved storytelling. I love the documentary format, but I'm like, it's been so long. I want to get back to that. How do I get back to that? So I bought a, basic camera setup, and I learned from some professionals and got back into it. Um, and I think that was, and I was while doing the engineering thing. So I have like two careers kind of side by side throughout my 30s. And that's been awesome. I've absolutely loved both, and both are creative. Like engineering is applied physics, and I do design more than engineering, but it's a lot of engineering as well. And for products, aerospace, neuroscience, sustainable toys, like smart electronic stuff, motor control, spacecrafts, things that need to be, all kinds of weird stuff. And it's been really fun. Um, but yeah, it's very strange. Most people don't do one career, and if they do one, they do like a specific niche in it. And then I've like a generalist in engineering, so
Yeah.
I've worked on all kinds of medical devices and like all those different worlds is kind of strange as well. And then now I do, instead of making music, I actually work with musicians to tell stories, and
Sure.
I've kind of brought it all full circle where I do documentary work highlighting as many artists as I can pull into a story, and I use their own music to tell their story or their community's story. Like I have a documentary about music in Vietnam that I made. It's sort of like a almost like my thesis from my
Yeah.
5 years in Vietnam, where it's like, what is the music scene in Vietnam? We have hip hop, pop, beatboxing, metal, punk rock, some political focus stuff, some secular, all kinds of stuff. And then my second documentary is about musicians who were raised and born inside of a cult that created an alternative music scene somehow, like a safe space for artists to do self-expression, even though it's pretty off limits in that culture. Somehow they created this like community within the community,
Hmm.
and that caused all kinds of problems for them. But they kept did it for like 17 years. They have this amazing archive of like short films and 30 albums of music, and like got to a pretty high level of production. And
Yeah.
they have their own like music production studio. So, and then it was like, well, what did self-expression lead to something? They all these people sort of, most of them like got out. And so like maybe the self-expressing themselves broke through the barriers of the programming that the brainwashing of the cult was doing to them, where they could communicate, and their relationships were much stronger than, hey, we just go to the same church. It was like, no, we make art together. Like
Yeah.
that's a different level of relationship.
Yeah.
And they kept the communication after one person left. Like, well, why did you leave? Like, what are you thinking about? Like, what was it for you? And then that influenced each other, and it kind of created this like cascade of people exiting this high control experience.
That's interesting. So talk to me a little bit about heroes for you. Who's been kind of a motivator or a hero for you in your life?
Wow. Um, at that time, because I also had a shared experience with these artists in the second film, Witness Underground, of being raised around that cult experience and having to successfully navigating getting away from these dangerous things. We were passing around a lot of books about physics, and because physics is where a lot of the big questions are being asked about the universe and the meaning of life and purpose, and they don't have the answer, and that's okay. Or like
Yeah.
religion just says, no, we know the answer, or faith groups or spiritual groups. And um, Sam Harris was a pretty like, I mean, hero's an interesting word, but like Sam Harris is kind of a thought hero in that he's not saying he has the answer, but he's helping you like walk through ideas and ways of thinking, and like what are logical fallacies, like how do we work through this big question in a way that is self-empowering. And then like I got into Dawkins. Like I felt like I didn't like him at all for the longest time. I thought he was kind of a jerk and really mean atheist, and then realized like actually he's this incredibly brilliant person who's asking the right questions and putting pretty good ideas out there. um, so those were like secret books we were giving to each other that were influencing each other. And then in terms of art, a big influence to me was Kim Krazan. She wrote the Before trilogy with Richard Linklater, who's become an amazingly famous director.
Yeah.
Um, and I just found out recently, and her and I've connected, which is so cool. But she's also came out of the same religion, and I didn't know that. But as a teenager, I was like, "Whoa, this film's so cool!" Like the way these people are communicating is so abstract on like another level. Like they're actors, and the way they had written it was like two people just like trying to navigate life, but from a more abstract and esoteric way of seeing the world, and completely open and liberal in their ideologies and ways of thinking, and like bouncing off of each other in this like really playful, dynamic way.
Yeah.
And I ended up, she had a third or another project called Waking Life. I ended up naming my personal band after that um, rotoscoped film that she also wrote and also acts in.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so like to find out last year that she also left the same religion that I was in when I found her work, or was associated with, was like this amazing thing. Like she got out and made art that was important to her, and like it influenced me to create art that helped me get out of that thing that she was trapped in, that I was
Yeah.
trapped in, like
Yeah.
that's this cool, like she was communicating in a way that was like, I don't know, I was the perfect audience member for her
Yeah.
art in a way.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if you can meet anybody alive right now on the planet and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Ooh, eat somebody. Wow. I'm not big on like having favorites or heroes. That's an interesting question. I don't really think about like, I was thinking you were looking for a famous person, but you're not actually saying that.
Yeah, no.
Um, I'm really curious about people who have a large like a who are big in the Eastern thought. I think Sam Harris sort of sparked this interest in me. People that have spent a lot of their life working on how the mind works, how their own mind works, and like I do meditation, um, and uh, I try to figure out what my own patterns are. And it has nothing to do with spirituality to me in terms of what that word usually means to people. And it means a lot of things to different people. But it's an act of presence and understanding your own subconscious universe. And I think I kind of want to dive. I don't have any particular person in mind, but that space, like he kind of opened up my world to like 1500s, 1600s East Asia, where
Yeah.
they were really like at the pioneering this like internal world perspective.
Yeah.
And there's people that are doing that. He interviews a lot of them on his app and podcast. I think that's fascinating. I don't care so much about the personality of the people, but I am just interested in like finding out more of those people who know something deeper of like could teach a method that
Yeah.
would be more profound.
Yeah, for sure. So what is the motivator for you? What is it that gets you out of bed, that gets you up and to create the work that you make and to get things done the way you want to get them done?
Mm. My project started, it's called XW Coming Out, was an interview series interviewing people who've left the Jehovah's Witnesses because it's a traumatic experience I went through, to name the cult we're talking about. My
Yeah.
second film is about. And later we crowdfunded that series, but we kept that going, but also made this movie Witness Underground that's won an award, went to 11 festivals, and it's like my big, like, this is my career pinnacle thing. I'm so excited to share it with the world. And then through that process, I decided like I wanted to make stories faster, because making a movie took years and I want that story out, and it's still not out. It's like soft release. We're releasing it right now. So like getting on your show is like a way to get the word out. And so I appreciate you having me
Sure.
on. So Witness Underground is in release phase right now, but it's just self distribution. So it's like one piece at a time. We're getting into a library. We're getting into this place. It's on Vimeo on demand now. It's on my Patreon, so you can go there and check it out. Um, Soft release. But through that, I made a podcast. So what got me excited about the podcast, and I do on YouTube and audio only, or it's audio also. And that was like, well, I can make a movie and that takes years, or I can interview someone like you're doing right now, and in a week or two have that story captured and out in the world. And there's so many stories of amazing artists who have left this religion, and I want to show off their work. And it's not that I just want to like be a music promoter or an art promoter, but I want to help share these stories of processing trauma in a creative way. Music I like because I have a background in music, and it's always been a big part of my life, and I understand it maybe more than the average person, but not to put myself on some kind of pedestal above the average, but I it's a beautiful way to touch people's emotions immediately. And what's amazing that I've found is that there's so many musicians, whether they were musicians in it or became musicians after leaving, people have used music and also books and painting and also other kinds of craft work and creative self-expression to process something. And music's beautiful because it's like, you have a 3-minute song that like emotionally hits you instantaneously with like a mood or an emotional reaction that you have. That music has this power to like cut through language and cut through culture, and just like you react negative, positive, some way, some mood, some emotion. And then the lyrics are often when they have their process through their trauma of leaving and going through this thing, they've captured some of those ideas in their lyrics. And so it's like this genre of like post cult trilogy of art or something, like post cult processing trauma art. and i
Yeah.
and i want to show that to the world and share it, because just listening to a song by any artist can help you or save your life or like make you think about something differently. And so here's a bunch of people who've gone through something really heavy who've packaged into a 3-minute experience or like a
Yeah.
one album experience. And there's so many, and we have a ton on our website that are highlighted in our film, plus some other people we've met since that are like highlighted in our podcast, the Witness Underground podcast. So that all just helps. Like I'm excited to wake up in the morning, like, oh, I had this interview. Awesome. I'm gonna get up early and be ready.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna do this interview, and like I need to listen to their album for like a whole day and like take notes on 15 songs and like make sure that I highlight them properly in the interview and bring
Yeah.
out the points that like hit me.
That's
I know
cool.
it.
So that's cool. So in your life up to this point, what's been the best advice you've ever gotten?
Mm. Don't use don't come from a place of anger or trying to make a point like against someone. I think it's like highlight the best in people, or like their most uh, I'm trying to do that. I'm not sure that was advice, but it's definitely been a theme that keeps coming back into my life, which is I'm trying to people are self-expressing, and I'm trying to just like put the word out. And like the concept for my show and my project, all my projects so far, the last like 8 years have been like create, support, those two words. I
Yeah.
create, but also I create the framework for others to support, and also I do my direct support of others. I don't know. I don't know how to. Yeah, no, I like that. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say I don't know. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Of all the things that you've created up to this point,
Mhm.
films and music, what's been the best fan letter, best response you've ever gotten from somebody?
Um, there's actually been quite a few now that have said that have said I watched your documentary 4 times and I cried at a different part every time.
Yeah, that's deep.
Like, who watches a documentary more than once? And like, this is really resonating with those particular individuals. But like, also, I've only ever like gotten emotional once in a documentary, so like, definitely struck a chord with certain people. Like, it really humanized um, the experiences of the people that we interviewed. I'm not in my own documentary. There's different styles of documentaries. These are like pure interviews, no added dialogue, no voiceover. My input's not there. And besides the writing and editing, the soundtracking and all this stuff, but like, people really resonate with these authentic stories. And I feel like we really humanized the cult experience. But another one was fun, was from the main guy in the film. He shared the film privately before we ever did the film festival run. And it was a woman that he's known for 30 years or something. She's like, may today be the day that I've cried in the most parking lots. um, like, she got to know her friend in a way that she'd never experienced him before. And it like affected her um, throughout her day that day.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
deep.
powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of all of the things that you've done, accomplished, overcome, what are you the proudest of that you've done in your life?
Hmm. For sure, the documentary is like the pinnacle of my efforts so far. Um, I used to say that leaving this religion might be the most important thing I have ever done in my life. And that was sort of like a sad moment because like, it's such a dumb situation to be like stuck in because your parents made a decision for you when you were a kid. And that like just walking away from it would be like the pinnacle of my life's positive moments.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty powerful experience. But now, like, making a film that highlights not only like, okay, there's like, I did a bunch of things in this film. So the film is it. Like, I've absolutely love what I made, and it's like not just I made a movie. It was like a fun thing to do with my friends. It was like, this is my like life's mission, is to expose this particular religion cult for what it is, which is a dangerous um, group in our society, and they are your neighbors in your neighborhood. They exist in almost every country in the world. They are doing damage to our society. I want people to know that. Um, but there's a thing that people normally do in movies or art or media or news about this topic where they just say, oh, this cult is this other thing, otherize them, like they're different than us, they're not one of us, like weirdos, whatever, some ostracizing of them or separation. And no one's really humanizing the experience. So I want to
Yeah.
show what it's really like to live it through the eyes of people who lived it with the art that they made while in it. And you get to know them and understand them and relate to them as a human, and then show what the experience of exiting is like from different perspectives. We did our best to show that, but they're really good storytellers. So packaging those losses of family, of community, of innocence, of um, yeah, friends, and even jobs in some cases, and then eventually like loss of life happened, not because of the religion, but like, these are all human experiences that we have at different times in our lives, but having it all ripped out from underneath you on purpose by some group of people, including your own family and friends, is like so tragic. And how do you survive that? And that's another thing that almost no film's done before, which is they usually cut and roll the credits after the person cries, gets vulnerable, and you're supposed to feel pity for this. Not only were they a weirdo in a cult, now they're a weirdo who left a cult. And they're like, no, like these are humans that go through, they have the full range of emotions like everybody. And what is that like? And then what happens after that? Let's not roll credits. Let's see the next chapter. Like, how do they process their trauma and not just commit suicide because their life's now this tragic pity and
Yeah.
like shameful experience that's now they're a broken human. No, like there's a healing process that happens. Like, what did they do after? Well, they made 4 amazing albums and they're still doing it. And then they kept the music studio going and they're doing a new creative project and they're inspiring more people. And they created this like community outside that's even way more interesting than they ever had on the inside. And they're a benefit to society because they're doing that and they're offering people some piece of art that can affect your life for the better. So creating the space to show that off for me is like the pinnacle. And it's a community that we've created as well. And now the podcast is like this great extension of the movie Witness Underground podcast. It's just more of that. Like, let's find more people like this. Here was a
Yeah.
community. There's more people from that community, and there's more people that are around the world that have done something similar. And let's go beyond just this one cult. Like maybe there's other people who've left, and there's plenty of stories. And I like the name. I just found this one, and maybe it's commonly known, but the singer from Pedro the Lion
Yeah.
in the 90s, he had his sort of like waking up from like this kind of thing and having a different belief system and changing the way he sees the world. And he put it into music and he toured the country solo without his band. And I think that's amazing. Love to have
Yeah.
him on my show. Maybe you can too. But like those stories are incredible to me.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, and speaking of, it's a perfect lead in. If anyone wants to get involved, see the project, watch it evolve to where it's going through your podcast and the film as it's in its release stages, and any of your other work, where can they go? Where's the best place?
Witnessunderground.com is the
Okay.
best place. And there you can see the Patreon if you want to support the project and get more exclusives and have like join the community more seriously. There you can also get to the Vimeo on demand through there. And give you the links to put in your show notes. But then we're on social as well. But you can find all of that on the website.
Okay.
Witnessunderground.com.
Well, good for you, Scott. Great work, man. Thank you for opening up about this project and, coming from your current home in paradise. So enjoy the sunshine out there, and thank you. I appreciate your story.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, Joe.
Thank you. Take care.